Hello traders, Day Trader Matt here of businesswithtrading.com doing a trading strategy recap for Thursday the 20th of August. And today was another fantastic day. We've had some really great trading days this month as well as, in our history. But today was excellent. Today we made 3 trades for 15 3/4 points. And you can see, looking at it from a 5-minute chart, it really doesn't look like much. But we were able to grab the best trade of the morning when, price ended up gapping down here, chopped around a little bit because this is a 5-minute candle, so I will definitely look at this as chop on a lower time frame. And then as price started to push up, we did have resistance up in here. We got short right here. Price ended up dropping down, chopping around a little bit, and we got out right in here. So nice trade there. And then price ended up chopping around some more and then rolling over again. So that was interesting. I wanted to take profit, get out of the trade because I was looking at a possibility of it coming higher. The level was right here that we were watching. It got sort of close to it, but not close enough to really matter. And then it rolled over. So failing to get above that really did set a lot of weakness in place. So we watched it. So our first trade was right over here at 9:40. Nice trade. And we waited for a full hour. Waited for price to, come down a little bit. And as it came up here, we got long right at 52.75, right in here. And we were able to write it up and get out at 55 half, 20.55 half, right down here. So this is a nice quick trade, not too bad. From 1040 to about 1053-ish, something like that. And then we watched price some more. Watched it come down, come up, come down. As it came down here, we decided to get long again. Got long right down here at 20.51 half. Actually, right here to be exact. And then we got out right here. As price started to come back down, we got out. So we got a point on that trade. We got long at 51 half. We got out at 52 half. Just because, price was starting to look a little bit ugly. It wasn't really looking that great. And I always talk about, I'm not the top tick, bottom tick type of person. I get into a trade that looks good, and then we get out at a decent area. Or, in this case, we got long, and then we just moved our stop up as price went up. And then we let price roll over and take us out. That's why we got out. That's why I say 1053-ish, because I'm not exactly sure what time. This was a 5-minute chart. So we got out somewhere on this candle. On this one, what we did is once price started to push up here, we moved our stop up, and then price rolled over and took our stop out. And then it did come up a little more, but then it chopped around. But let's look at what it did in the afternoon, and it just sold and sold. So, it was a fairly good trade. What I do as a trader and what I teach others is, to be conservative. You don't want to be conservative to the point where you see a trade and you're like, oh, I need some confirmation. I want to see something. A candle pattern or inside bar, outside bar. I want to see something. And that's not what trading's about. Professional traders, they don't wait for confirmation. They don't look for MACD rollovers or, a candlestick pattern, shooting star waving at a person as they're driving by pattern, whatever you want to call it. I'm not a big fan of candlestick patterns if you haven't got that yet. But, waiting for confirmation is a fool's game. Yeah, if you wait for confirmation, sometimes you'll get a decent trade, but sometimes you're going to get your face ripped off. Waiting for an outside bar, sometimes it'll work, sometimes you'll get your face ripped off. Inside bar, sometimes it'll work, sometimes you'll get your face ripped off. If you are patient and wait for the market to come to you, and then you can make trades on that. This trade was a high probability trade, and you see, if we would have just kept our stop above the level we were watching, we would have been able to move it down and actually make a lot more profit. But 15 3/4 points on 3 trades, most people would probably take that. I would take that. That's a phenomenal day. And trading's all about being able to scale. Scale your trading. So you start out trading a couple contracts, and then you're trading a couple more contracts, and a couple more contracts. And that's what's great about the ES. You can trade 50 to 100 contracts and be okay most of the time. When the market's very indecisive and not doing anything, probably aren't going to get, the opportunity to trade, a few hundred contracts at a time. But when it's very liquid, like today, for example, yeah, you'll be able to trade lots of contracts. And that's what the ES is really great about. It's the most liquid futures market, really. If you want to get more liquid than that, you have to trade Forex, because Forex is global and you're looking at a lot more money changing hands just because of what it is. But the ES is so liquid, you really won't have a problem unless you're trading, billions and billions of dollars on the ES. And if you're trading that much money, you want to diversify and trade other markets anyway. But not to get off on too much of a tangent. What we did, price came up here. I was talking about wanting to be short over here. Price came up. We're like, okay, let's get in. We got in, and price just rolled over. It was a high probability zone. I didn't think it was going to drop as fast as it did, but I did have a very clear thoughts of it coming down, of it going lower. So it came up, we got short. We, don't wait for confirmation or any of that crap. That's just what people, tell you. I know some people that trade with confirmation. I'm not too sure how good they really do. I don't want to toot my own horn, but the people that I know, I do better than them. I'm not trying to say one is better, one is worse. I'm just saying that's my experience. Take it as it is. But anyway, being able to, trade this way, we don't really have to, look at too many things. Because I've talked about this a lot. Mindset is a huge part of trading, and the less you have to consciously think about, the better you're going to be able to do. Because we can only keep a finite amount of information in our heads at any one time as far as our focus. We can only focus on a couple things. This is a bad example. Let me think of something else. If you walk down the side of the road and you're texting, have a friend with you talking to you while you're texting, and you're holding a dog, you're walking the dog, and you're making sure the dog's not in traffic, and you're trying to do everything at once, you're going to have a difficult time. And it's the same with our trading screens. The more we have to do, the worse we're going to be. So the less you have to focus on, the better you'll be. That's what I'm trying to say in a very long-winded fashion, apparently. But the point I wanted to talk about today was confirmation. Your professionals aren't waiting for confirmation. An outside bar, inside bar, candlestick pattern, whatever it is, stochastic, MACD, RSI, whatever. What they're trying to do is find the highest probable areas to trade in, and that's what they do. They jump in. Sometimes they're wrong, sometimes they're not. And if you want to have a great example, listen to the S&P. Listen to the pit. And you'll hear, a couple hundred contracts, a couple thousand contracts, and somebody's underwater. They might lose money one day, but they might make a fortune the next day. And that's what trading's all about. They're a little bit more, some are a little more risky with their money than others. For me, I definitely take a conservative money management approach. And you can see with the numbers that I generate, that over time it really works out very well. And that's really what trading is about. Being able to manage your money properly to where you're not risking a lot, but you're able to at least maximize your profit as much as you can. We got short here. We were able to get out here just because it was at an area where it could have supported a little bit, or it could have just rolled over like it did. I wasn't really thinking that this was going to happen, but it did. And we had already taken off. I think this was like an 11-point trade. It was awesome. And then our other two trades were nice, but this was an 11-point trade. It was very, very awesome to have. So anyway, hopefully you got something out of what I was talking about. Very important concepts. I think you can always leave comments below. I encourage any feedback, comments, definitely below the video. Thanks for watching. Have a great rest of your day. I'll see you back here in the markets. Thank you.